It's the Week 8 edition of the Coach's Corner here on RFM. Great to have you along with us, joining us on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, and along with our partners at 95.1 FM WLPZ and Tucker56radio.com and Dick Tucker. Great to have you along with us. Todd Robbins here for RFM, joined as always by Leominster High School Head Coach Devin Gates as we move on to Week 8 action in this, our 11th season of the Coach's Corner. And Coach, we were just saying at the end of the night, the other night, the fact that 7 weeks of the season have expired is, I mean, literally like a blink of an eye, and we're through 7 weeks. And so here we are into the eighth week of action here. And I mean, does it seem like for you guys it's going as fast as it is for the rest of us? It seems like it's just flying by this season.
Flying by. Yeah, no, it definitely feels that way too. You know, each week is just, especially when we kind of kept our head down and just taking care of business. It's flying by. I want to slow down a little bit.
Absolutely. Certainly take those opportunities where you can. And I mean, of course, we'll make this point enough over the next handful of weeks, but the fact that the season goes this fast really does say a lot about the small sample size that plays into, when you or whether you qualify for the postseason or not, regardless of what division you're in. 1 through 8, everybody's facing the same problem. You have to play a minimum of 7 games, and you can play up to, those first 8 weeks, and that's it. That's your resume to decide whether you qualify or not.
Yeah, no, it's a tough formula at the moment. Obviously, a lot of things that could probably be tweaked, and I'm sure they're going to look at that, as we get the realignment, after this season, and take a look at ways to improve the system, or at least try to whatever variables you need to make it a more accurate. I think the depiction of where teams are at would be helpful, obviously.
No question about that. Before we get into Week 8 action and dig deeper and deeper into this playoff picture, let's flash back to Week 7 action. Leominster storms past Wachusett, a 48-27 win, and really, I think, declare once again Leominster's presence in Central Mass. I mean, that has probably been one of the harder things over the last handful of years, is really the fact that Leominster has kind of fallen back in that picture a little bit, and Wachusett certainly over the last 5 to 8 years has taken up that mantle as kind of being the measuring stick in Central Mass. So it felt like, to me, Coach, an important win on many fronts. The power ratings in the playoffs are obvious ones, but to me, chief among them is certainly for the confidence in the program, the development of the program. Tell me in your mind how important it was to get that win and really be able to declare on the big stage, if you will, that Leominster is back. Because at times, I mean, I got to imagine it's impossible to carry the yoke of being, the continuing legacy of a 12-time Super Bowl champion, program. I mean, it's wonderful and difficult all at the same time, merging all those things together to pick up a win like this on such a big stage with all the eyes, in Central Mass looking in your direction. What did that mean to your program?
Oh, it meant a ton. Just to validate our kids and how hard that they've worked. And, I think we felt like the little brother, to watch you the last, handful of years, at least since, 2015. And we hadn't beaten since then. So, I think the guys had a chip on their shoulder, and we talk about the history, we talk about the tradition and how it's important, how we should have pride in where we come from and the jerseys that we're wearing. And so it hasn't been for lack of trying. I think guys have just really fully bought in to the whole picture, the history, the traditions, the work ethic of how we want things to go, and what's important to the coaching staff, what's important to the kids, how we want them to carry themselves. I think everything's just come together this year, and it culminated in that win on Friday night. Our guys didn't back down. The stage wasn't too big for them. I think that they really, were really anxious and excited to get out there and show them how far we've come. And for them to go out there and execute. The best, I've seen our team execute since I started here. Said a lot about our makeup and, what we're trying to do.
when you're working your way back up that mountain. We love our combination metaphors and cliches on this program. You got to climb to the top of the mountain. It's the old king of the mountain from the middle school playground. You got to knock the king of the mountain off in order to get to the top and establish your presence again. And certainly that seemed like the only way to prove yourself is to beat that person. And certainly a great measuring stick. And again, speaks to the although Coach Mike Buczynski was reticent to talk about it with me pregame, there is certainly a lot to be said for what he has done with his program and the 5 to 10 year window that they have had. That is not easy to keep coming back year in and year out and year in and year out and have all of that attention in your general direction. And make no mistake about it, that's still an incredibly good football team that just on that night was just a little bit behind where they needed to be.
Yeah, they are a great football program. What they've done over the last, decade plus has proven that, they've really the measuring stick for every program, in Central Mass. And we knew that going in that it's going to take a special effort from everybody to make that happen. And we just were lucky enough to get that from multiple players. And, so when the stars align like that, you need some stuff like that to happen to beat a team like Wachusett, a program like Wachusett. And, they're not going to go anywhere. This isn't a decline for Wachusett. It's, they're going to be there. And it's going to, I'm just hoping that we can, sustain, some of the sets that we've seen so far, sustain that moving on. But again, that's down the road. We don't need to worry about that right now. But, it did feel good to kind of get that monkey off our back a little bit, so to speak. And just the confidence level of our kids, to know that, the work that they've done, again, I'm saying this again, but the work that they've done, and, it just the practice year this year too, it just to trust each other and just to know that they're a good football program. They're a good football team. It's not just me telling you, now they're seeing all the fruits of their labor. And, it was a special night that, we wanted to enjoy this weekend and put to bed today and move on from there.
Without a doubt. And it wasn't because, Coach Buczynski didn't want to talk about it with me. It's because he has got to be the most amazing at verbal judo. He really took me on this like Belichickian tour of, he is the most personable and wonderful conversation. And then my mic turned on. And then all of a sudden we were in this adventure of verbal judo that I could not find my way. I could not pierce through that pregame. And again, it's a great credit to him. He gave me a run for my money on trying to get his thoughts prior to the kickoff of that one. And
this is not his first rodeo, that's for sure.
Indeed it's not. And I love the challenge. That's part of this process as well. Speaking of kickoff, when I think about your team, and we talked a little bit about the opening kickoff after the game and the importance of all of it, but I think the other thing that it kind of outlined as I thought about it going through the weekend was kind of the maturing process your team is having. And we've talked about fast starts in a lot of ways, but this seemed to me to be your team taking the fight to the opposition, which is something that, maybe again, as they've been reticent to in the past, or it hasn't been certainly something that they have been felt capable or up to. But at this point, instead of being dictated to, it felt like right from the opening gun, Leominster was dictating the pace in that football game.
No, it's something we talked about during the week of practice too. Like we wanted to force them to play our type of game, and we felt that we could do that with our at least offensively, with our personnel, with our formations. I think it puts some stress on them that that maybe they haven't seen that much on their schedule. I mean, obviously they played Franklin, and Franklin's a really good football team, ranked number 1 in the state, and I just don't know if they thought that we could play up to that level. I think we caught them off guard a little bit. Our guys just went out there knowing what we wanted to do and just went out and executed what we talked about. So it wasn't, at no point in time during the week, in our game plan, did we talk about filling things out and see how things were going to go. It's like, no, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And to the kids' credit, they went out there and executed just about as well as you could.
Talk about this next section of the game, really kind of emphasizing the fact that, this game hinges on small bounces of the football or small adjustments along the way. And we'll stay with this kickoff for a moment, because the more I've thought about it, it was teetering on this very interesting precipice, because if you look at it prior to the end of the play, everything developing up to that point, the likelihood of the way the holes opened up, the way Matt Reiki got into open space, looked like it had all of the hallmarks of a kick six possibility, which would have changed the opening of that football game and maybe the way the story would have developed, who knows. But that one extra play, that one person who separates the ball, the ability to get to the bottom of the pile and come up with it, which we know is Aramis Reyes. As you get a chance now to look at the video and review it in total, what did you see developing on that play, and how did the fortunes change come the tail end of the play?
Well, we got some work to do on our kickoff team this week, and that's that's the first thing. We had that. We had a big hole there, and credit to Wachusett too. They double teamed some of our stronger players up there, and made some of our younger guys make some tackles in space, and our guys, again, not lacking effort. They have good players, and they exposed us a little bit there, and that's something we're going to address this week. But in terms of the fortunes changing, we went from a worst case scenario in that. I guess best case scenario in that situation is we get them across, they're now on our side of the field and within striking distance of Tucker McDonald's arm to get to the end zone. So from going to a spot where they're instantly in scoring, position to us having the football and going the other way, I can't say enough how huge of a swing that was, for us, and our guys, embraced it and capitalized off of it.
Were you able to see on video who separated the football or how the football came to be separated? We know who got the ball. Were you able to see how, that kind of portion of the play developed?
An unbelievable effort by Steven Diaz. So Steven Diaz was, trailing and kind of came up behind and just dug in and ripped that ball right out of his hands. And Aramis was right there to pick it up. So, Steven kind of chased it down. He was behind the play a little bit, chased it down, never gave up on it, stripped that ball out, and made a huge play. So Steven Diaz with a great play there.
Playing it all the way to the end. And that has been the Steven Diaz that we've known throughout this season as we've been introduced to him throughout this year, and kind of staying with this same trend of the ball bouncing in various ways in a 50-50 situation, all but a handful of weeks back on a touchdown play. You came out on the wrong end of that 50-50 situation. And interesting enough, cosmics being what they are in this game, Ricky Encarnacion found himself in another one of those plays again. This time when the play settled and the officials came up with it, Leominster ends up with a touchdown and Ricky Encarnacion ends up with a touchdown catch. I've watched that play. I can't tell you how many times from every angle I've been able to find. Obviously, I had the live version I saw with my own eyes, the replay from the Leominster TV angle. There was a social media angle that was reverse sideline lower down at that corner of the end zone. And I watched that thing over and over and over and over again. I still don't know who ultimately caught that football, but the only thing I've been able to figure out, or at least guess my way through, is that I think Ricky's hand was on the number of the defender and the ball landed on his hand, even though the defender closed his hands around it. Ricky palmed the ball and then finished the close, and then there was a jockeying all the way to the ground for it.
I did find a picture, Todd, and I'll share it with you after.
Absolutely.
Of Ricky when they landed in the end zone. Rick's got his hands over the defender's shoulders with his hands around the ball, and the defender has his hands off the ball. And that one frame right there is really, as they came to the ground, possession in the end zone. And the back judge called it right. The actual back judge asked for a copy of that because he felt it was as tight as you could possibly make it, and even sent it to someone that he knows that supervises ACC officials and said it's 50-50. If you brought it to replay, they're going to go with whatever the call was on the field. So. Yep. But then I found the photograph, and then I felt a lot better about it.
Absolutely.
Not that I didn't feel better about it in the first place, but
no, certainly. But I mean, that's how close these plays are. I mean, first of all, it was Officials Appreciation Week, and regardless of how the call went, that's how difficult the job is. I mean, if you want to emphasize just how tight the job can be, that's the difference. And then there are little cues. Like I go back to my officiating training, and one of the things we were taught is you kind of play off of what the players do, right? As the play develops and reaches its natural end, what's the player doing? So I was a softball official. If you had a 50-50 missed tag or not, if the player's still reaching out for the tag, the player is indicating to you they don't believe they've got the tag. And so at the end of that play, the thing that concerned me was Ricky looks like he's still pulling at the ball, which indicates to me he thinks maybe the other guys got it potentially. But I don't think either player really knew whether they had it or not.
No, it really, I did the same thing you did. I tried to find every single angle of it that I could and could not find one that was definitive to me. It's like, hey, it's just 50-50. A tie goes to the receiver. But, but the picture I did find, was pretty much all the proof I needed after that. So, I mean, great concentration by Rick. The ball was under, I mean, it was probably, it was underthrown a little bit, which was not like Cyrus in that game. He was pretty spot on with everything else. But underthrown, and Ricky made a great play on it. And that defender, number 4, was extremely tough for Wachusett. He did a great job playing some man coverage. It made catching the ball that difficult. Where now we're throwing up, now we're in a 50-50 situation. But glad it went our way because we've been on the other side of that as well too.
Mm-hmm.
You feel for the kid. The kid tried to make a great play, but Ricky just he's just having a great year, and by making plays like that.
No question about it. And that's, of course, one of the benefits. If you're a quarterback and you do make a minor mistake, you've got players down the field that can help you out. That's why it's a team game in the grand scheme of things. And Luke Snyder was the defender that you were referring to there, who was making a tough night all around. He certainly popped up in coverage in a number of places as well. Let's tie this all, Coach, to the kind of the greater point. And that is, this is another week where we can talk about all 3 phases of your football team making things happen to contribute to a win, and I don't know that many teams end up in a situation throughout a year, whether over and over and over again, we can keep going. All 3 phases of the game did something this week. All 3 phases of the game. Like coaches will tell you, we'd like to win all 3 phases: offense, defense, special teams. You've been fortunate enough this year that on a lot of weeks, you can point to things that all 3 phases did to contribute to creating a successful opportunity for your football team.
Yeah, we're just playing great, team football right now, just across the board. It does, it doesn't feel like offense, defense, special teams. It feels like we're just trying to be the best football team that we can, and guys that embrace that. And, I know it can be tough sometimes, in place, we all talk about the importance of special teams, but being able to find that time in practice to be able to, to get everything you need to get in, and practice what you need to do, is tough. And I'll give our coaches credit, Coach Hunter Papa and Coach Mario Meza. They do a great job at splitting up special teams and, making sure that we're maximizing, the time that we do have special teams to make sure guys are bought in, know what the plan is, know where, strengths and weaknesses are. And it's paid off so far. So we got a great collaboration going on right now with coaches and players. And again, it's showing up in all facets of the game.
Indeed, it is. You said to me before the game that you thought Osiris Lopez looked the best he ever had in his, limited, amount of data that we had 6 weeks to that point, prior to the football game. And you really thought it was indicative of the possibility of him having a major night. He proved you right and then some last Friday night, and he delivered on that promise. What did you see from him pregame that just told you this kid is in the right place to have a special night?
He was just zeroed in on everything that he was doing. Every pass out of his hand when we were warming up was crisp, right where it needed to be. It had a little extra zip to it. And he really just, you could just tell. I mean, I remember locking eyes with Coach Canterbury and just going, all right, here we go. And that's a tribute to Osiris. He's got the great ability to not let the game get bigger than it has to be. It's still we're still playing football, and he plays his best football. In the short experience I have with him, when the stakes are the highest. That's not easy to do. That's not easy to do, given all the the anxieties around being able to wonder if you're able to make the plays that your team needs to win the game. And he just says, get on my back, let's go. And he's just that type of kid, that type of player.
Indeed, he is. Coach, defensively, your team took an offense that we know was just gushing throughout this year. They had, the flow, the point totals. I mean, we said it prior to the game. It was literally 2 teams that have had massively vaunted offenses this year. And your defense went up against the star power of a quarterback in Tucker McDonald, and his star power is obvious. But the execution of your defense really limited him to being a passive factor in the end result of the football game. Made some plays, but there just weren't enough opportunities for him. Where did your defense zero in and really neutralize the weapons and options he had available to him?
Well, I think it was a focus of our defense to, obviously get pressure first. But if you're bringing more than 4 or 5, then you're taking a chance with leaving him space to throw the football. So it really was a balance of being able to try to get pressure with either 3 or 4 guys, and coverage wise, being able to have Tucker maybe move to his second or third reads. And I thought that, our kids did a good job of making him do that. And while still keeping him in the pocket, because he's pretty dangerous when he breaks the pocket as well too. So I think, Coach Maloney's plan and the coaches, who coached it up, Coach Martin with the D line, Coach Meza, Coach Navarro with the secondary, and then Coach Maloney with the linebackers. They did a great job at just drilling everything how we wanted to do it, changing the picture for the quarterback. A lot of the time, I think is not being able to get a really clear pre-snap, post-snap read. I think those are all factors that played into it. Tucker's a great quarterback, and we really had to, take some risks, I think, defensively to try to achieve those goals, and it worked out. But again, all credit to the kids for executing the game plan and the coaches for coming up and drilling it. It certainly got the results that we were looking for.
And those results, a 48-27 Leominster win over Wachusett. The Blue Devils now 6-1 in 2022. Wachusett falls to 5-2. Elsewhere in Week 7 action, Shrewsbury ran away from Shepherd Hill by a 40-13 score. Marlborough pitches a 0 at Algonquin, 34-0 the final there. Fitchburg falls just short in a battle with Neshoba, 28-20. Neshoba's Wolves down the Red Raiders. And then Doherty gains their first win on the season on a Saturday with a win over North by a 28-8 score. And so, Coach, as we conclude 7 weeks of action, we look at the power ratings, which we won't get the updated through Week 7 power ratings until tomorrow morning, Tuesday at 10 a.m. But what we know at this point in time, just looking at last week's from Friday morning, which is the most recent we have available, at that time you were in the 12th slot with the then 5-1 record. Your average margin of victory was 9 1/3. Your opponent rating was about 2.1, give or take, which led you to an overall rating of about 11.4, which was good enough for 12th position at that point in time. Wachusett, we know, was obviously a division up from you. They play a very difficult schedule. So certainly there is a windfall of points there that are available potentially, plus your margin of victory was over 14. All those things certainly lead to our speculating at this juncture that your power rating number will rise from the 12th position.
Yeah, and just doing some rough math today, I expect us maybe to climb a couple spots. Again, at this point in the season, it's really tough to make huge jumps because the teams that are now towards the top are the teams that kind of established themselves there and won a ton of games. And sometimes this late in the season, you're playing some of the other conference games where now maybe you're playing there that maybe aren't quite there in terms of being able to challenge you. So in me going and looking at some of the other teams that are there above us, I don't know how much movement there is going to be, but again, we've talked about this in weeks past too. It's not anything that we can do anything about. We just got to go and win our games and put ourselves in the best situation. Try to win, and get as many points as the rest is of itself.
Again, we'll remind people it's a 16-team tournament in each division. The top 8 in the opening round will host. The bottom 8 will travel too. And then you go down from there. You'll go to 16, to 8, to 4, to 2 on that first Saturday in December at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. That is the way things will develop over weeks 9, 10, break, and then 11, and then break for Thanksgiving in 12, and then play the 13th week with your Super Bowl potential as well for those teams that do progress down that road, and certainly we'll see where we go. I tend to agree with you. Looking at these numbers, even knowing what we know out of last week, certainly those top three spots, Milford, King Philip, and Peabody. And maybe you could shed a little light on this one, because I know you've been looking at these things. Milford is 5-1, and they're ahead of two teams, Peabody being one of them that we know is incredibly strong, and King Philip, who has a massive football tradition, are both 6-0. And of course, it is on the back of Milford having an incredibly high power rating. Who's Milford been playing, Coach, that puts them that high on the field? And of course, even with the one loss, despite that, they find themselves ahead.
Well, Milford actually lost to King Philip. That's the team that they lost to.
Wow. And the plot thickens as we say.
So they do play, in the Hockomock.
Yep.
I believe, I'm not sure if it's the Kelly Rex or the Davenport side of it, but the stronger side of it, in terms of, the kids with, the schools with, higher populations, the Franklins, the King Phillips, so it's an extremely tough conference. So even just playing the teams in their conference, gets them a ton of points. And again, I haven't looked at their whole schedule. I just know that they've been playing teams, they've been playing team stuff, they've been scoring a ton of points. But again, King Philip was there last year against Catholic Memorial. So, they're no stranger to any of this at all either. Milford, I know Milford plays Franklin this week, and that should be, that will have implications, with the, both Division I and Division II power rankings. So, the Hockomock is a tough league in Division II. There's a lot of teams up there. The Mansfield's up there as well too. So, Milford's a good football team. We scrimmaged them, last year, and they look pretty strong, and they've only built on that. So, it's 5-1 when the team that beat you is below is it's a little weird. And again, I don't know King Philip's schedule either. So
sure. You look back 10 years ago, and Milford was a member of the Midwatch League. It's amazing how worlds change as they move on. But the Scarlet Hawks find themselves on top right now in the catbird seat. And of course, as Bill Thomas has coined, the backside points there in that Milford Franklin game, Coach, there's massive backside points. Losing there doesn't necessarily hurt you one way or another. Not that anybody's playing for losses, but losing there doesn't really hurt your feelings in the grand scheme of things.
No, and that's really the situation with a lot of the teams that are above us on there too. Like even, they're either playing a team that, on paper, they should handle pretty easily, or a team that has, a good amount of their own opponent points for their opponent rating, and it's not going to affect, as long as it's not, a blowout loss or anything like that at all, not going to affect them too much. So, and again, I haven't put a ton of, I've looked at it, kind of at the surface, and I haven't put a whole ton of time into it. But it's, again, like I said, it's something that we can't control, and our guys right now are going to be dialed in for Friday in Shrewsbury.
The amount of game prep you do, Coach, I'll vouch for you. I'm well aware you don't have time to do the calculations on the postseason as well. Before we close Week 7, want to make a note, Coach. And of course, we talk about program wise. I mean, there's so many things that go into making a really successful football program, and the atmosphere that is Doyle Field every single week, and that includes the Marching Blue Devils of the marching band, who placed second in the MICCA, winning 4 out of 5 stars and a silver medal over the weekend after performing for homecoming and senior night on Friday. Went out over the weekend, and they also were very successful. And of course, it's one of those rising tide raises all boats, right? Everybody gets excited, everybody's doing well. It certainly motivates. And I mean, we can tie this into a larger conversation. If you look at where Leominster is at right now in the fall season, there's been a lot of winning across the board, and it seems to be contagious.
Yeah, no, the coaches are doing a great job, and I think all the kids, the student body, the student athletes, I think everybody's really excited about where Leominster is right now, and I think no one more than Dave Palazzi too. He's done a great job. I think this year, after a tough couple of years with COVID, and I think there's a lot of pride in Leominster, and I think kids are starting to kind of feel that again, and it's exciting. But back to the marching band as well too. Bobby Bergeron does a great job. Listen to them Friday night at homecoming after they played. It's fantastic. I love the theme that they have going on right now. Looking back into kind of years past and kind of progressing. It's been really neat to watch and see, and the work that these kids have put in too. They were there all summer too. They did have their own summer camp. Much like we did preseason camp. And then for them to win that on Saturday, that silver, it just speaks to their work ethic, their attention to detail, and his leadership and his staff's leadership as well too. So I think there's a lot of middle schools in that band as well too, which is exciting for the future as well. So, hopefully more people come out for it, and the band gets bigger and better, because love that on a Friday night. Just for my own selfish reasons. On the side, I think it's one of the great things about high school football, and just having that band there playing behind you, and and supporting you and getting everybody excited. And the larger the band, the more excitement there's going to be.
No question about that. Cheer and spirit squad as well. I mean, those Friday nights are a culmination of everything that goes on in a given week, kind of getting all to come together at any one point in time. And to your point about band legacy, I mean, anytime you can bring back photos of Leominster's Western era, which was the Dave Palazzi 80s, and the band went through their Western time period for those graduates of the 80s as well. Some great images that have been brought back up with the full blow-ups that are moving around as well.
Giddy up.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As we move on to week 8 action, as we turn our attention to Leominster and Shrewsbury in the week ahead. First, we'll take a look at other games around the region we'll be keeping an eye on across Central Mass. Wachusett travels to Algonquin to close out their regular season. Westboro plays host to Marlborough. Shepherd Hill will host Grafton in a tough football team down there in the southern Worcester County area. Then Neshoba travels to Tantascwa. Fitchburg at Doherty in a battle of 1-6 football teams. I don't think anybody saw that coming at the beginning of the year, but that is going to be a feisty battle of two teams that desperately want to be the one that walks out of there with 2 wins at the conclusion of 8 weeks, to say the least. That'll be a great game down at Foley Stadium in Worcester. Our action for you here on RFM Audio and with our partners at Leominster TV, WLPZ, and Tucka 56 Radio will be Leominster traveling to Shrewsbury. Blue Devils bring in a 6-1 overall record. The Colonials of Shrewsbury a 4-3 overall record. And Coach, it goes without saying that both teams need this game to qualify to make that postseason. That is the guaranteed route. You win, you're in. You lose, you hope that mathematically something works out in your favor.
Yeah, no, it's really that simple for us. But more so than that too. It's this is a rivalry game for us. Shrewsbury, again, another team that we felt like we're the little brother to over the last however so many years. We haven't beat them since 2015. I guess just like Wachusett. So our guys are focused on that. They know what's at stake. But there's deeper meaning to it too than just a playoff game. As with Central Mass football, it's rivalries are pretty special here, and we're excited to go down there and play them there, and we'll go out and approach it like we've approached every week this year, and hopefully after the game we can talk about seeding after that.
No doubt about it. Talk about that recent series, Coach. And this is, it shows all the hallmarks of a rivalry going back to 2010. Shrewsbury leads the series 8-7 in the 15 meetings since 2010. Leominster has outscored Shrewsbury, interestingly enough, 319 to 277, despite trailing in those games since 2010. But Shrewsbury has won the last 6 straight, and that was on the heels of Leominster winning 6 straight prior, from 2015 going all the way back to 2012. Leominster had won 6 straight, so went 6 and now 6 the other way. Perhaps a turnabout is fair play, is in order coming up on Friday night. Certainly will be the goal. And Coach, we mentioned this 4-3 record that Shrewsbury has, and you said it to me right off the bat. Last week we had a chance to see him in week 4 against Algonquin, and the indicator of record is not always indicator of a football team. And this is that case. If you look at the teams that they have played, Andover, a loss week 1, 34-6. They then beat St. John's of Shrewsbury, their crosstown rival, 18-15 in week 2. They get a big win on the road at Acton Boxborough by a 34-6 score, beat Algonquin 28-0, and that game was here. And then they dropped 2 in a row at Walpole, 34-12, at Grafton, 13-12, against a really tough team from just a division down. And then the most recent win against Shepherd Hill by a 40-13 score. And so it looks like a mixed bag if you just look at wins and losses. But when you put it in context, you've got teams that are from the top halves of their respective divisions. They have really been kind of ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. And that's thanks to their athletic director, Jay Costa, who really saw kind of the direction this was going and got out in front of it it a few years ago, starting to build these relationships and modify the way their schedule paradigm was going to be made year in and year out. And now everyone else has been kind of following suit and playing catch up. And certainly this means this is, although a 4-3 team, they may look dinged up, but they are a battle-tested, hardened football team.
Exactly. That's it, Todd. Exactly. They've played, some of the toughest teams, in the state this year. Their 3 losses come from, a combined opponent record of 20-1. There's only, one loss, among the teams that they've lost to. So they've played, like I said, some of the best competition in the state. And, that served them well. This is a real tough football team. Offensively and defensively, they pride themselves on running the football. TJ Welsh is a very good quarterback who's, a tough downhill runner. So that's, really what we got to be, have in mind and really be able to address, is going to be their physicality, their ability to lean on you, and kind of impose their will, both offensively and defensively.
In recent memory, it seems like we're always talking about the quarterback position for Shrewsbury. And over the last handful of years, we were talking about the strength of throwing the ball down the field and the ability to really, kind of sling the ball all over the field. This year with TJ Welch, it's a little different the way, he's doing it. He has the ability to throw the football, but he's doing a lot more with his legs and distributing the ball as well. He's really right now showing to kind of be that true triple threat. It could go in any direction sort of quarterback. It kind of depends on the night and modifying the way things develop, but he's dangerous. And you can look at the various games and the different ways that they have attacked their opposition.
Yeah, they're a very, very well coached football team. So, they've been able to adapt their offense to the ability of their quarterbacks over the last few years. With TJ Welsh, you have the ability to throw the football, but he's also just such a strong runner downhill that now you throw in some of the extra plays or some of the constraint plays that they'll run with some of the speed sweeps, play action, and you've really created a dangerous offense. And that's what they've done so far. And I think everything runs through TJ first of all. So that's the person that we got to key on in terms of trying to slow them down. But the staff does a great job offensively and defensively, putting their players in the places to be successful. And whether that be running maybe some of the same plays they've run in the past, out of different formations, or just being able to, run something schematically that fits their personnel better. They just really do a good job of adapting to their players and, putting successful football team on the field year after year after year.
You have an experienced coaching staff there. Of course, John Aloisi has been there a number of years as head coach. But they are certainly fortunate enough to have other former head coaches down the staff as well, which, of course, adds to that area of experience. Your note on Welch is well taken. In that game versus Algonquin, 117 rushing yards on 18 carries and 3 touchdowns, 7 of 8 passing for 77 yards. And his numbers against Acton Boxborough were similar as well. And it kind of shows that balanced attack and that ability to find different ways to move the ball down the field. And here's where I think, again, we've talked about this every week, Coach, and that is, of course, line play is going to again be a featured point because, again, Shrewsbury's got some big guys up front that are certainly going to be dominating and imposing presences on the field. But, what's hit me about your line success, and I feel like we haven't attacked it this way, so I want to talk about it this way this week. We've talked a lot about in the skill positions, and again, it's a football term. I didn't invent it. The skill positions, you talk about the quarterbacks, the receivers, the running backs. We've talked about the diversity of weapons that you have, and the names, abound, and the mix and match of parts. And each week somebody else steps up, and then there are the names each and every week. I feel like on the line sometimes people assume or poorly presume that it's the same 5 or 6 guys that play the front all the time. And so I want to look at it this way this week. I think the underestimated or undercovered piece of your football team is it's not the same 5 or 6 guys over and over and over again. You've got a really strong core, but there are rotations and substitutions that are coming, and there are a deep number of weapons you have on the line, and you're able to keep changing. That is another place where depth has been to your benefit. And there are more than just those starting 5 or 6 that we talk about up front that are making contributions to creating holes, opening up opportunities, letting your offense flow, and disrupting the offense of your opposition.
Yeah, we have about 7 or 8 guys that are, that we feel really comfortable with, both offensively and defensively, if we need to kind of move things around. So, And we're going to need all of that this week, because, like I said, Shrewsbury is going to try to lean on you, and they're going to run right at you. So being able to have fresh legs, being able to have guys that, we can depend on and trust, and that their teammates trust to go in there and do the right thing and play tough is going to be huge. And I think that we have that with our, both offensively, offensive and defensive line. A lot of, tough-nosed kids there that you communicate well and really kind of feed off of each other. Our offensive line has been played like a unit, like a complete unit all year long. Starting with John Escabi up front, just being able to make the calls, and everybody kind of falls in suit after that. And really proud of both our offensive and defensive lines this year.
No doubt about that, Coach. I'll wrap this conversation as we prep for Leominster and Shrewsbury coming up this way. Certainly, you're now staring down the last game of the regular season on the doorstep of what comes ahead. And so you've got a sample size that has shown you a lot of your football team. As you look at where you are through 7 weeks and entering this 8th week, we know where the successes have been. We highlight some of the challenges along the way. Where are you still able to look for growth? It's one of the great parts about being, a coach is despite all of the great things we talk about, you've got the teaching moments and the places that you're always looking to see continued growth. Where would you like to see continued growth in your football team as we go to week 8 and beyond?
Well, I think what we're starting to see now, we have a good foundation, I think, through the first 5 weeks of the season. And I think starting last week with Algonquin, we're starting to see guys have a real good grasp offensively and defensively of how to solve some of the problems that we face. So they're coming to us with answers before, we even get a chance to go to them with what we're thinking. And a lot of the times we're on the same page. So, that's been really nice to see. And I think that's just a testament to the type of kids that we have right now, being sponges. So I think moving forward, because it's only going to get harder from here on out. Shrewsbury's tough, and then if we're lucky enough to make the playoffs, we can be playing some tough teams. So be able to solve the problems that come up and kind of see what we're seeing, I think is really a special thing that we're starting to see our guys mature with every single week. Started with the quarterback. When Osiris sees something come over, and I know that he said in the interview with Utah that him and Coach Canterbury kind of start finishing each other's sentences. Well, it's kind of like that in the play calling department too. And there's been a lot more collaboration around what we're seeing, what's open, what's not open, and communicating that with the coaches and the players over the last couple of weeks. So it's been a fun development, and that's what I'm looking forward to getting stronger with each week. It's really been a lot of fun as a coach and a teacher to kind of see that happen.
I've said this to you before. It's been fun watching you guys communicate from long distance and be able to send the signals back and forth with one another. And talking to some members of the community this week, that's what they said to me. They go, wow, you really can see, coaches sending in one set of plays and then there's a set of hand signals going back. I said, yeah, they really are communicating with hand signals from long distance to be able to, have that collaborative process and be able to develop out a play. It's just something that I think we haven't yet seen in years past, something a little bit new, something a little bit different. And again, like you said, showing the great and tremendous growth that players are willing to make through their dedication to learning their craft.
Absolutely. It's been so much fun, and just looking forward to that continued collaboration with the coaches, the players, the staff. It's you got a lot of people right now that are all for, again, cliche time, rowing in the same direction.
It's okay. I love this.
I can't help it. It's just
it's our thing. It's become our thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Week 8 action
each week of how many we can.
All the different ones we got. People are sitting at home clicking along.
Start having a pool at home about the cliches are going to happen. The over/under on 8 next week.
I was going to say, let's see where we go. Well, there's a lot of possibilities there. Playoff cliche potential. Oh boy, we'll have to work ahead on that one. Week 8 action on RFM Audio. Leominster travels to Shrewsbury. It's a 7:00 kickoff from Adams Memorial Field on the campus of Shrewsbury High School. Come on out, travel well. It certainly makes all of the difference, for both teams to have a slam pack field. It's a great facility. It is always weather challenged. It's always cool. It's always windy. It's always a beautiful night high atop the hill of Shrewsbury and looking out over the city of Worcester. We look forward to seeing folks there. And of course, we here at RFM and with our partners, we've got you covered on the way to the game, at the game, and on your way home, and even over the weekend as well. Our live live countdown to kickoff will be 6 o'clock on these same RFM platforms of YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch on Friday night. We'll count you down, and then Leominster TV will pick us up halfway through. They'll join us with live coverage at 6:30 on the channels of Comcast and Verizon, as well as Leominster.TV. Then it's replays throughout the weekend. Saturday, 95.1 FM, WLPZ, and WLPZ.org at noon for your over-the-air signal. And then Sunday, it's Tucka56radio.com and Tucka56 Radio on Live 365, also at noon. And we thank Dick Tucker there with Tucka56 Radio for their partnership, as well as Sonny Levine and the great folks at WLPZ for being a continued partner with us here at RFM Audio. And then no week begins, of course, without the Coach's Corner on Mondays at 9 p.m. right here on RFM. We got the breakdown and analysis next week. We will have a slightly different schedule. We've got Halloween there next Monday. Coach is going door to door. You've got to, if you are fortunate enough to be in the neighborhood, to see the Gates family come along, I tell you, I got a preview tonight. You are going to be entertained. So look for that. The legend appears on this broadcast from time to time. Be looking for him on the streets next Monday night, which means the Coach's Corner will be delayed to next Tuesday, November the 1st. We'll have it for you at 9 p.m. on these same RFM platforms. Same with the breakdown and analysis. Wednesday, 8 p.m. Tucka56 Radio. Thursday, 5 p.m., 95.1 FM, WLPZ and WLPZ.org. Coach, Halloween next week, and I wish the legend nothing but great success.
Thanks, Todd. And before we go to Todd, I really want to mention about we had a loss in the Leominster football community this past weekend. An unexpected loss, and something that's hitting a lot of people really hard. That's youth football coach and flag football coach Ricky White. He passed this weekend, and there are a lot of people that looked up to Ricky. Had a huge impact on the youth of our community, and not just being a great coach and a great mentor, but he's just a great person too. And I was lucky enough to play against him in high school, and I've known him over the years, and just a great, genuine person. Someone that we're going to miss greatly. And just our thoughts and prayers are with his family, his friends, his players, and all that were impacted, by his contributions. He's just a great guy.
It is sad that this seemed like, maybe once a year we have to do this, and it feels like we were doing this far too frequently, referring to one tragedy or another that has kind of befallen this community. But certainly we'll extend our thoughts and prayers to the Curley and White families as they go through this tragic time, as well as the Leominster football family. And I mean, Coach, you guys have worked very hard to fully vertically integrate this program, and certainly this class of 2023 is a great example of that. And Ricky White certainly left his stamp on this class of 2023 as well.
No, without a doubt. He impacted so many, even if you didn't play for him directly, just being around him, he always had a kind word, always had something you can improve on, and being able to present in a way that made you feel special. So just a great guy, and will really be missed. And, Leominster football is a family. It doesn't matter which grade, which level. That's truly how we feel about it. It's the way it's, that's one of the great things about Leominster. It is a football community, and it's tight knit. And, we saw a lot of that community out on Saturday when the 8th grade football team played. That's the team that Ricky coached. They won and are now in the Super Bowl for next week. So an emotional day, but it was great. I want to say the home side almost looked like it did for the Wachusett game. There were so many people there. So just a great showing of support for those who have been impacted, by Ricky's passing. And, if anybody needs anything, there are people out there to help you out. So we just want to make sure that, that you're supported. And this is a Leominster football family.
No question about it. The Leominster football family has dedicated the remainder of their seasons to the memory of Ricky White. That was certainly made clear online over the weekend as well. We'll look forward to seeing where that goes in the weeks ahead. For Leominster High School head coach Devin Gates, I am Todd Robbins saying thank you so very much for joining us. And until next week, so long, everybody.